which ones are from the 60s and 70s.
Alright, we're missing two people, maybe, I don't know. Clay and Dave. David. Also, if you want to have it.
Bribery already.
Bribery.
Are there many festivals?
Just being nice.
Any festivals there in Venezuela?
Huh?
I'll go beer instead.
I don't have beer. You want to
I
get
don't
it?
want
Alright.
beer.
Here we go.
I'll go take one now. Thank you, sir.
Maybe I gave you two. Here we go.
This is the first.
I thought nobody has ever.
Yeah, I know.
And as the leader, we're expecting buffet breakfast.
Well, I guess I have to be paid, be part of the experience.
Wow, it looks like something Ryan would type up.
Alright. Yeah, I copy it.
You didn't open them for us, though.
Oh.
Yeah.
Next time. Alright, everybody ready? Okay. Today, should I close the door or leave it open for?
I don't care. If it gets noisy, you can shut it. I'll probably bang on it as soon as you shut it.
Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about Gerry Weil and how important he is in defining the Venezuelan jazz sound. So let's jump into it. Early years, Gerry was born in Vienna, Austria in 1939. There's a picture of him as a baby. And having met Gerry personally, I remember the stories when he once told me, one night we went to the bunkers to be safe from the bombs in World War II. And when we came out, my building, my apartment was gone. It didn't exist. So he and his family went to a Red Cross area where they will be safe. And in that place, Gerry will go alone to the forest to play. And one of those times, there was an American tank with a black soldier tuning his radio to listen to Glenn Miller. And so this was the first time that Gerry saw an Afro-American person and the first time he heard jazz. He immediately fell in love with jazz. And from that moment on, he knew he wanted to do music. When things settled down back in Vienna, he came back to the capital and they went to the Conservatory of Music and they did an audition and they told him, your child is musically deaf. He will never be able to do music. He has no talent. However, that didn't stop him because he took some private lessons on an old piano that he had in his house. And eventually he started doing very bad at school. So his mother told him, you gotta get a title, so you're gonna be a pastry chef. And so he got a pastry chef diploma, which he really never put into practice because he hated waking up early to select the fruits at the market. So after World War II, Venezuela became a safe place for many Europeans to go and start a new life. And so Gerry was one of those people that in 1957 went to Venezuela in search of new opportunities. And that's when his music career started. So Gerry started going to the clubs, listening to records, transcribing. He was mostly self-taught, although he also took some Berkeley courses by correspondence, by mail. There wasn't such thing as Wi-Fi back then. But eventually, he kept practicing, he kept building his own talent, and in 1968, he releases his first album. From that moment on, he continues to do music. That's when he keeps releasing albums and defining the Venezuelan sound, the Venezuelan jazz sound, by incorporating concepts from European and American music with Afro-American music from Venezuela's culture. So, there's some pictures of his first group over here. This is Gerry in the middle. He also eventually will sing too, like nothing. He's a pianist. He's a keyboard player and composer, but he will sing in some of his songs. Here's a young Gerry Weil, magazines, and so from 74 to 81, he goes in a musical isolation to a different region of the country, kind of like finding a spiritual way and just staying away from the city. But then in the 80s, he comes back to Caracas, the capital of Venezuela, and he continues his career as a composer, producer, performer, and he starts teaching. He becomes an educator, and that's very important because he's going to influence all of the great generations of Venezuelan musicians to come. Here are recent pictures of Gerry. This was just last year. He's very charismatic. He's very, always with a happy attitude and positive and going for it. He's always learning. He's always nice to be with. And here's some of the awards he received. In 2008, the National Music Prize from Venezuela, which is the biggest reward you can receive. And in 2009, the Decoration of Merit in Gold from the Austrian government. There's also some publications like the Gerry Weil's Applied Jazz Harmony Guide that was a work that he did with a student for the university. And in 2016, there's a biography that he released about his life. Both are here. I'm sad that I don't have the biography, but you can only buy it at Venezuela. And yeah, it's kind of hard getting it. Here's some other, let's see. Here's some other pictures of Gerry. He has toured the world, many places, many jazz festivals, and these are more recent pictures where he went to New York. He also went to Miami. Here's a picture with his son, one of his sons, with whom he has a new project where he becomes like a coach for musicians and non-musicians about life and how you have to reinvent yourself. Throughout Gerry's life, he has many obstacles like any of us, and instead of stopping and not moving forward, he just invents himself. If he needs to sing, well, he's going to sing. If he needs to compose on a different style of music, why not? He's open to learning. And yeah, here's some of his pictures. Now, before talking about the stylistic characteristics of his playing, like I said before, he has influenced many, many generations of musicians in Venezuela, and this is just a glimpse. And the thing about Gerry is that he not only influences jazz musicians, he influences groups from any style. So, to name a few, these groups plays ska, and they've been doing it for 35 years. These groups plays Celtic fusion music, and they've been doing it for like about 10, 20 years. This bass player over here has played with the greatest Latin American musicians at the moment, and he lives in Miami. Leo Blanco, he's one of the important pianists at Berklee College of Music right now. He's a Latin pianist. Another great pianist over here in the world of jazz, Nene Quintero, percussionist in the world of jazz, Laura Guevara, singer-songwriter, and Caramelos de Cenuro, a rock band that is actually coming to Toronto the 5th of March. So I might be able to play with them on that concert, but it's still not decided. We'll see. So like I said, Gerry has influenced people from all generations and all styles, not only jazz. And here's his discography. From 1968 to 2019, he keeps active. He keeps composing and publishing new material. And so, to talk about his stylistic characteristics of playing, Gerry has been in different formats, from quintet to trios to piano solo, and the way he performs is drawing from European classical concepts for harmony and American concepts for melody, and blending it with Afro-American rhythms from Venezuela's culture. That mix, that fusion, is what helped define the Venezuelan jazz sound. And so in his playing, you can find that he has compositions with odd meters, and that there's also a lot of intervals of fourths for his voicings and comping. Let's see what else I have here. His melodies for his compositions that are singable, they're like nice contour, nice phrasing. and he draws from concepts from blues, classical, rock, salsa, fusion, and electronic music. He also does a lot of free play in his concerts and on some of his records, which is just like a crazy free jazz improvisation. And well, when he does arrangements of certain songs, and most recently he has been doing it with pop songs, like from the Beatles, Imagine, from John Lennon, and things like that, he has a very rich reharmonization and clear structure of the song. All right, and so you will also find that Gerry was influenced by many of the great jazz composers. Here on the sheet of paper that I gave you, you'll find some of the ones that I could, how do you say, that I could check online, that I was able to like find a source saying it. But talking to Gerry in person, he will mention you all the great jazz musicians that we've studied in music. Yeah. So interesting enough, I couldn't find any of the albums from the first one to this one online, only from here forward. So I wasn't really able to listen any of that music before. There was one single on YouTube from this album, The Message, which when I heard it, it's more like the 70s. It's more like the fusion era. So there's a lot of like rock fusion on that album. But from this album onwards, he goes back to the acoustic piano. He forgets about MIDI and synthesizers. And yeah, it's just great as well. So from here on is the information I could find online. I've talked too much, and I rather just listen to music now, so I want to show you some of the recordings that I choose. And before doing the transcriptions, there's two tunes that I think are great to showcase Gerry. The first one, El Viejo Puente de la Pastora, it's in a 5/8 meter, and it's a composition by him. This is a trio. Play. That's just a glimpse because we don't have too much time. And that rhythm, it's the traditional merengue rhythm from Venezuela. So he learned about it when he migrated and he fused it into this song.
Is it traditionally in 5?
Yeah.
It is, eh?
The Venezuelan merengue is in 5, which might be confusing because tradition merengue outside of Venezuela, it's in 6/8 or 2/4. So yeah, it's very interesting. And so here's another glimpse of this song that it's in Portuguese. Another thing about Gerry, he knows like a bunch of languages. If you want to take lessons with him, he can do it through Skype right now, even though he's 80 years old, that doesn't matter. And he can do it in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, German, and some others that I forgot. And so this song, it's in Portuguese, Cansado das Crianças, which means Song of the Children. And so it's a humorous song because the melody is like a little kid when they go, that's kind of the motif that he plays. So, sounds like this. found it very funny when I heard it. So let's move on to the transcriptions. I did 3 because I don't know. And so the first one I'm gonna look at is Sabana Grande. This is one of his compositions, and what I like about this is the rhythmic ideas he presents and develops. He also repeats them, and there's a lot of triplets that can be found in his playing. It's very rhythmic, it's a Latin tune, and the notes he chooses, they're diatonic to the key or the chord changes, and sometimes when I'm soloing I forget that that's important and that's what sounds good. Just don't play a bunch of notes, play it diatonically. And so it sounds a little bit like this. I'm going to play it slower. Interlude, and then he continues the solo, and he starts with chord tones and quickly develops an idea of like a movement of fifths or sixths in intervals, and he keeps repeating it, and I found that interesting. Let's listen to it, it's better. No. Here we go. have much time, I'm not gonna play this transcription, but I do wanna show it to you guys, and I'm gonna make some comments. This is an arrangement that he did for Ain't Misbehaving. It's one of the most recent albums on the Live Indiana tour. He did it last year. And so it's a piano solo version. He sings, and he also plays this piano solo. And so he keeps the chord changes, but adds a groove at the beginning of each head. I put the groove at the end of the transcription. There's also, on his solo, approach notes, there's licks, superimposed triads, intervals, and of course, chord tones. If you can see on bar 4, on the D flat 7 chord, he plays the Crimea River lick, for example. And then he has ideas that he repeats. And then there's also intervals, right? On bar 8, he goes. Then there's chord tones. And yeah, that's what I got from listening to it. I'm gonna skip ahead to the solo and maybe leave a little bit of the singing. Let's see.
I'm saving my love for you.
And he keeps going on. Finally, there's one more transcription that I want to take a look at. This is called Brisas del Ávila, composed by Nene Quintero, this guy over here. He's an important percussionist in Venezuela. And what I took from this solo is the contour of the melody. So the way he shapes the phrases, there's like a call and response. If he goes up, then he responds by moving down. And it's very simple concept, but I found it interesting. Yeah, something I also forget when I'm playing. Sounds like this. I'm gonna skip the repetition. On bar 31, how he presents this rhythmic idea, and then makes it faster for the D7. I don't know, it's nice. And so let's listen to it quickly.
Is that the percussionist?
Yeah, that's the percussion. That everything that you listen to, that's the percussion. The idea of this song is Brisas del Ávila, that's like winds of the Ávila. The Ávila is like a very huge mountain that we have in the capital city, that it separates the city from the sea. So it's like a tribute to that. And I should have mentioned maybe before that Sabana Grande, that's the place where Gerry lives, which is a very chaotic section of the city. So that's why it's so moved. Finally, two more examples pretty quickly. This one is the most recent single that he released called El Mensaje, The Message, where, like I said, Gerry influences younger generations and younger generations influenced him. So here he's gonna be rapping. I like that because he's always active, you know, he's always trying to reinvent himself.
Hope for me yet.
Oh
I mean,
no.
we're gonna wait till I hit my 80s. Yeah, no,
English and
I gotta go.
Running like people stand across the street. Their conscience will boulevard and funky feet. Their faces in bitter and cold like eyes. So the look of me starts to rise. And while they're high in their plastic shells, every time to see a hit count, they yell. Burn this mother and beans touch my bride.
Oye la abuela, listen to me que le vinimos a meter.
That's a very famous rapper from Venezuela, so he's
Esa es la
featured.
Gerry Weil, you know say. Oye la abuela, que vinimos a oye la
Goes like
abuela.
that.
Listen to me que le vinimos a meter. Oye la bien como la vamos a romper. Esa es la Pachi Gerry Weil, you know say.
All we want to give you is a little bit of love. Peace. We want no revolution. We want peace and solution.
Yeah. And also very recently there was the Venezuelan National Youth Orchestra. They did a big band arrangement of Gerry Weil tunes. It's amazing, and so that happened this December. And I found out this recording of one of those arrangements that I think sounds pretty great like that. Let's see. Oh no, it's somewhere around here. He's also singing here. But alright, this is the song. I heard this live once and it's amazing. Finally, some pictures of Gerry nowadays. A picture of me a while ago when I was taking lessons from him for a while. Gerry lives a very simple life. So this is the street where he lives, in Caracas, Venezuela. Another picture over here. This is his house. A simple piano, some books, recordings around the house. And this is what he does every weekend, no exception. If you want to take private lessons with him on a Saturday and Sunday, you can't, because he's at the beach. And that's the only things he needs. He needs his room, his piano, and going to the beach every weekend. Unless, of course, he's touring somewhere around the world. But it's a very simple life. And so he likes to say this a lot, which is a Chinese proverb that says, El sabio que sabe que suficiente es suficiente siempre tiene suficiente. Or, the wise man who knows that enough is enough always has enough. That's why he doesn't need more. Thank you very much.
That's great.
All right, so I was gonna do it about Carla Bley, and you should also check her out because she's one of the few female jazz musicians that has been active for over 50 years. And as you can see, there's not many female jazz musicians in the world. Just look at this room. There's 1 out of 12. So Carla Bley is worth checking out, and she also has a very humorous way of composing and naming his tunes.
Yeah. There's a great website actually. I think it's her stuff on there too. Like Steve Swallow, I know, has a website, and all the tunes are on there. You can just download PDFs for free.
Yep.
Pretty cool. Yeah. They live in this beautiful town upstate New York, Catskills, called Willow. I know because that's one of his tunes actually, or a tune called Willow. It's really, really hard. But I mean, this is great. I never checked this guy out, so it's great to hear about it. Yeah. Nice.
Will you link his rapping?
Any questions?
I always on 80 though.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions.
He's just like a little bit younger than, I looked at Google the age, like, Joe Zawinu, or Zonal, we're going to call him, he's from Vienna as well.
Mm-hmm.
And also, but he was born in 1932.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was Gulda, who's more famous as a classical pianist. And Frederick Gulda. And he was born in 1930, so both of those guys were old enough that they wouldn't
They wouldn't have that.
Yeah, they would have been both like 8 and 10 years older kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I know from reading about both of those guys, like when they were checking out, they were checking out jazz in Vienna, but it was all underground because it was all like illegal.
Yeah.
Because it was all the Nazis, it was all but those guys were pretty successful too. I mean, and Gulda too. He's one of the few guys that he's known as like a really heavy concert pianist. And he's also known, he was like the main teacher of Martha Argerich, who's from Venezuela, she's from South America.
Martha
Argerich, yeah. She's like one of the heaviest concert pianists. A lot of people talk about her, not Martha Stewart, talk about her being kind of like the last great one. There she is.
Argentina.
Argentina. Is she?
Mm-hmm.
She's Argentina. That's right. Yeah. But anyway, she studied with that Gulda guy. But there's also some things on him of playing jazz, and he used to do 2 piano things with Joe Zawinu. The 2 of them used to go hang out together and sneak around and go hear jazz. They're really good. So, that's cool. I was gonna ask you too. Like there was in the end of one of those solos, he does a little Montuna kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like is that stuff? How much of that? I'm just wondering like, how much crossover stuff there is between Latin American countries. Like is there much of that tradition there too, or would he have gotten that from Cuban dudes that he listened to?
I will say like that kind of montuno and salsa and rhythm.
Yeah.
It's present in every Latin American country. It's
Right.
present for sure in Venezuela.
Right. Yeah.
Where specifically he learned it from, he could have listened to any record, right?
Sure.
Like, I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, in Venezuela they also play salsa music.
Yeah.
There's a very big Venezuelan band that does just salsa,
Uh-huh.
and they also study with Gerry. So like,
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, that's really interesting. Cool. Thanks, man.
yeah.
Well, definitely off to a good start. So, Dean,